Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM and NTXVarsitySports.com. Live from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. The Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast is brought by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
Hello and welcome to the Aledo Coaches Show Podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. We are at Parker County Brewing Company, just off of Ranch House Road here in eastern Parker County. We will bring you every podcast from this location throughout the 2025-26 school year. As always, we want to thank our two main sponsors between H5 Sports Barn and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. We continue to appreciate their support of this podcast as well as Aledo Athletics. We are not talking boys soccer per se, but the good news is that their season is still going. They traveled to Andrews Monday to take on El Paso America's. Team left at noon, so they have a state quarterfinal or Division I, Region I championship game in Class 5A, whichever label you want to use. But again, that's a noon start on Tuesday. The boys left at noon on Monday to go travel out there, kind of like what they did last week when they played El Paso Bel Air in the regional semifinals. But we are talking baseball, and there's a lot to talk about with the defending Class 5A Division I state champion Bearcats. They are 19-2 overall, ranked number 2 in the Texas High School Baseball Class 5A poll behind number 1 Grapevine. Bearcats are also 4-0 in District 5-5A, tied for first with Granbury. Currently on a 7-game winning streak, a home-and-home series with Keller Fossil Ridge this week, Tuesday in Keller, Thursday at home. That game moved up a day early because of the forthcoming Easter holiday. Now, a couple of numbers about this season, and some of these will make you say, you got to be kidding me. Team batting average is at .359. The team on-base percentage is at .482. In other words, that's nearly half the time they're coming to the plate that they're getting on base. Averaging more than 8 runs per game, they've belted 13 home runs. As for the pitching, well, that's the same thing. Team ERA is at 1.59, averaging 9.4 strikeouts per game. Remember, there's 21 outs in a regulation high school game. Allowed only 60 walks in more than 131 innings pitched. So that's a walk nearly every 2 innings plus. Not a bad ratio on that one as well. A 2-segment podcast for you as always. We start with head coach Chad Berry, who is now in his 16th season guiding Bearcat baseball. He is the author of 2 state titles, of course, last year in 2025, and then the 2014 4A state title. Then in our second segment, we will be joined by boys from the by senior third baseman Dylan Durand, and then senior catcher Connor Whitmire. Both are enjoying strong offensive seasons. Well, pretty much all the Bearcats are. So joined by head coach Chad Berry here. First of all, congratulations on the start. I'm sure there would be some thought if this program would be complacent after the state championship run last year. But there is an Aledo way of doing business, of course, because all the programs are like this. It's not like you take a season off or anything like that. But I want to know exactly what the offseason message was to this team to make sure that you guys were working against any kind of threat of complacency.
I think we went into the season knowing that we had a lot of we were going to have a target on our back. We kind of flew under the radar a little bit last year. And, you know, the message to this group of seniors was, you know, last year's seniors wrote an incredible chapter to Aledo baseball history, and now it's your turn to write your own chapter as well. And so, you know, last year was last year, and you're going to live off a lot of accolades and things like that. People are going to compare you to them. They're going to talk about last year's team, but that was last year, and this is this year's team, and you have to go and put in the due diligence and the work each and every day to write your own chapter.
I want to ask you, too, because your preseason tournaments were the Jag Meadows Classic that you hosted with Weatherford, the PBR Invitational between the Denton and Northwest ISD schools, and then the Drew Medford Invitational held at your ballpark and several others around the area. What did you like about your team from those 3 weekends?
I felt like we came out the first week, really that first game, it's a little different. When you know you're playing 6 games, you have to spread out your pitching. You have to kind of schedule guys for each and every game to make sure everybody gets their work. And at the same time, you can't always bring in a different reliever if this one doesn't have his best stuff, just because you've got to manage 6 games in a row in 3 days. And so at times we struggled to get some outs in that first week, and it showed early throwing strikes, walking guys. But the thing that I noticed that we did really well is we came out and hit the ball really well. I mean, we gave up quite a few runs in some of those games in that first tournament, but we were always scoring runs. We were having good at bats, and we were putting the ball in play and hitting balls hard. And so I thought that was a really good place to be at that early in the season. And I knew, give the pitchers a little time to settle in, and they'll get better, and they did.
I think I have this right. 11 wins over Class 6A schools, including shutout wins over State Power's Flower Mound and Keller. You tell me what that signaled to you, because those are two programs that make deep runs every single year. Flower Mound's won a couple of state championships. Rob Stramp at Keller has had a tremendous program, always gets his team at least not to the regional semifinals. He gets them to the regional finals, which I think they did last year. And so that's really doing some work there right there, Chad.
Oh, for sure. And I think our kids, they enjoy going to that Week 2 tournament. They feel kind of like a little fish in a big pond, and they want to go out there and they want to make some noise, and they want to go compete with the best elite 6A programs in the state and prove that they belong. And they kind of play with a chip on their shoulder, and they did it really well that weekend.
And so, and you're going to have to get used to it next year because you're playing everybody in 6A, so you can't use the chip anymore. But, you've had some really good pitchers come through here throughout the course of your tenure running this program. Of course, last year, that was led by Devin Miller and Grayson McKelvey. But you had some real depth on this team this year. 4 pitchers with at least 3 wins. That's Lucas Naraki, Luke Sandifer, Taryn Byrne, and Garrett Love. Naraki and Sandifer names we know. Byrne and Love kind of fairly new, but just talk about how these 4 have kind of settled in to be what appears to be your top 4 of all of your hurlers.
Well, Garrett came up. He's a junior. He's the young one of the bunch. He kind of came up from the JV. He was one of the top pitchers on the JV last year, and probably could have pitched up on the varsity for us if we had needed him. But with the depth that we had last year, we felt like him getting consistent innings each week was going to be better for him in the long run as a sophomore. And so I think that worked out. He had a really great summer and a really great fall. And, he's added some velocity. I mean, he's thrown it up there 87, 88, and can touch 90 as well. And so with him being able to come in out of the bullpen now that tournaments are over, that just adds another a big arm that can come out of the bullpen. And then Taryn has really, really made some leaps and bounds from last year. He was a kind of a long relief guy for us. If a starter came out and didn't have his best stuff early, he was kind of the long relief guy. He would go in at a moment's notice and get some outs for us until we could get somebody else ready. And he's really he committed to Cisco, and so he's added some velocity and added some muscle tone, and it's really helped him a lot. And I've seen just some major improvements from him.
Yeah, and I would imagine too with the velocity, because something I go back to, and then I'm going to be dating myself here, but Leo Mazzoni, the famous pitching coach for the Atlanta Braves, that he was a big believer, big believer in the long toss, throwing long, because that was building up the arm strength, and then that could obviously translate to better velocity. Anything there, all of your guys there, or is it just kind of their own programs which are just producing the results that they want, velocity-wise and just command-wise?
I think most of them are a little different. A lot of them throw the weighted balls, and then they also long toss. Some of them don't throw the weighted balls as much, and they do a little more, just straight line throwing. But I kind of, at this point, they're 17, 18 years old. They've been pitching for several years, and they've kind of found what makes them the best pitcher that they can be. And so I kind of let them go whatever works for them the best.
Have you settled into a district rotation, or does the depth allow you to make sure everybody gets kind of their work in? I mean, you've allowed only 1 run in your first 4 district games, and you've also thrown 3 consecutive shutouts. So you tell me how you've kind of balanced this so far through the first 2 weeks with Fossil Ridge coming up this week.
So it's gotten to the point where it's harder to get everybody that needs work, the innings that they need, especially some of those games that only go 5 innings. We have several guys that we really are going to depend on in May when the playoffs do roll around, where we get into a Game 3 situation where we're trying to make sure we keep them fresh and keep them locked in as well, and keep them sharp. So that's hard to do, which, as we get along in the season, we'll go to where we'll have inter-squad scrimmage days where guys are getting live bullpen sessions against live hitters and try to keep them sharp as much as we can, especially since we're limited to 3 games a week now.
I was going to say you get penalized by the schedule a little bit, but with some schools would gladly take that if they don't have the depth that you have, but you kind of are the reverse, where it's kind of like we need more games rather than just 2, maybe 3, depending on the week or anything like that. I wanted to ask you, too, I mean, and because of this depth, you guys have thrown 10 shutouts this year. We've talked about the team ERA of 1.59, but just the fact that you guys have done that. I mentioned the 2 shutouts earlier against 2 quality programs in Flower Mound and Keller High, but I mean, just the way that you just limiting the number of scoring opportunities for opposing teams, that's why you build a 19-2 record.
I think so. A lot of it has to do with pitchers going out and knowing that there's a lot of competition to get on the mound and get the innings that they want, and so they got to go out and they got to do their job and be sharp because they know that there's 7, 8, 10 other guys behind them that want that opportunity as well. And then I think our defense has been really solid this year. We've had our ups and downs, but for the most part we've been really consistent defensively, and so when pitchers go out and they challenge hitters and they get the ball put in play and our defense is playing good defense behind them, that it gives them a lot of confidence to really be aggressive and go after hitters. Okay,
and you talked about Garrett Love as one of your new faces on this team. Just give us a quick preview of some of the other new faces that have made their way onto this varsity program, mostly JV call-ups. I know you had about 4 or 5 maybe move-ins last year, only one this year. That young man's hurt, but just talk about the JV kids that have made their impact with your team this year.
I mean, Jay Scholl is he's kind of unique. If you haven't had a chance to see him pitch, he's a switch pitcher. He's ambidextrous. He pitches with his left and right arm, so it's funny. You'll see him out there, and a left-handed hitter comes up, and he'll throw with his left arm, and then a righty will come up the next hitter, and he'll switch over. He's got one of those specially made gloves.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So he'll pitch right-handed to a right-handed hitter, and then sometimes he'll go lefty against righty if he has a runner on first, so that he can hold the runner better. And so it's pretty unique to see. He's one. Of course, Garrett, and then Kaylor Maison is an outfielder that is, he's competing for playing time as well out there, and comes from a great baseball family, and his older brother plays, third base at Coastal Carolina. So him coming up has been, it's added a lot of depth and speed to the bases, and another quality left-handed hitter. Paxton Pensick has been a relief pitcher for us. He hadn't got nearly as many innings as he'd probably like, but he's been effective when he's gone in there, and he helps. He takes up some time at first here and there to give Jackson a little break. And then who else do we have?
I think you got. I think Jordan Stone was the one. And Leighton Lambeth too.
Leighton Lambeth he's a left-handed pitcher for us that came up. He's kind of if we need to get a couple of outs in an inning to finish out an inning, he's our guy for that. And then Jordan Stone is kind of what Wilson Sinham was for us last year. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He can play infield, he can play outfield, he can play them all, and so that makes him really marketable and valuable because we can put him in left field, we can put him in right field, we can put him at third base or second base. He can play just about every position. He can also actually catch if we really needed it.
I'm old enough to know that there was, I think, a Major League Baseball pitcher that actually was a switch pitcher. I just can't remember who the guy was because it was back in the maybe the late 80s, early 90s, something along those lines. Okay, let's talk about this lineup and break it down. You have 2 sluggers that will join us here in a couple of minutes, but the flexibility of what these guys can create, because they're all tough outs to begin with here. But have you kind of settled in on a 1 through 9, or do you have the opportunity because they can flex into any spot in the lineup where you can do that, or do you really want to get to a 1 through 9 and say this is my 1 through 9 game in and game out?
I think you end up having to get to that, but the longer we can keep from getting that, I think the more competition it creates in practice. It keeps kids sharp. So we are constantly still moving kids around in the lineup. Trying different kids at the DH. I know right now Lucas Naraki, when he pitches, he doesn't like to hit. He just wants to focus on pitching. So we have a different kid DHing when he's pitching, and so that opens up a spot for somebody every Tuesday night to take on that DH role. And so we've used 2 or 3 different kids in that spot, and we're just trying different kids out to see if one of them sticks.
Okay. Now, the one thing I think that stands out to me among all of your offensive numbers here is that this team has drawn more walks, 115, than it has struck out, 94. I've never heard of anything like that. I don't care what level of baseball you're talking about. I've not seen anything like that this deep into a season. Maybe you see it 4 or 5 games, maybe 6, maybe 7, something like that, but to go 21 games. So I'm thinking here when I'm looking at this number, it's maturity, it's plate discipline, it's working counts. Those are all part of it, my presumption here. Anything else that I'm missing?
No, I mean, To me, if you're working the count and you're disciplined in the strike zone, you're going to find your way on base more times than not, and then that makes the guy behind you, it gives him a better opportunity to get a really good pitch to drive. And so I think they've all complemented each other really well, especially if they're leading off an inning, being selective. And if they get the pitch they want early, I'm all for them going after it if they get a good fastball. But at the same time, if they're not, then we've got to be disciplined enough to make that pitcher work to get outs. And, that's our whole goal is we want to make a pitcher throw 20 to 25 pitches per inning. We try to keep our pitchers 15 pitches or less. We want 15 pitches or less to get out of an inning, and we want to make the opposing pitcher throw 20 to 25, even 30 if we can.
Yeah, that's kind of the name of the game. You get the starters out of there as quickly as we can. Finally, the power. Now, everybody who looks at stats are going to look at the home run numbers. You guys have 12, which I can remember a couple of years ago that when I was doing your games on the PA, I think you had maybe 4 or 5 as a collective team. So the fact that you have 12 is striking, but I always look at this, and a lot of other experienced baseball people will look at this too. The better number to look at is 39. That's the number of doubles you guys have hit this year. So that kind of tells you more. I would think that should tell you a lot more about what kind of power you have on your team more than you do the home runs.
I think so. We're always constantly trying to drive the ball from gap to gap. We're looking for something that we can hit hard back through the middle where it came from. We're looking to spray the ball all around the field. And as long as we're putting good swings on good pitches, the home runs will come on their own. Mm-hmm. But we want to lead the state in walks and in doubles.
Well, I think you're kind of off to a pretty good start in both of those categories, so we'll see how that all fleshes out over here in the coming weeks. Okay, 2 weeks away, we'll have you come back because we'll have Heather Myers, the softball coach, joining us here, but I'm looking forward to tracking you guys as we get going. And, of course, as long as you guys are going in the playoffs, we're going to have you back every week. So it's always good to catch up with you, sir. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.
All right. And we want to remind you that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and iPhysio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for over 30 years. Stick around. The second part of our podcast comes your way next. We'll have the Aledo Notables, and then we'll be joined by a couple of players from this Aledo Bearcats baseball team. You're listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, back after this timeout. And we're back here on the Aledo Coaches Show podcast here at Parker County Brewing Company. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Before we get to our guests, let's get you to the Aledo Notables. It'll all be concentrated on the boys soccer team. They are 22-3-2. They meet El Paso Americas in the Class 5A Division I Region I final. Again, state quarterfinal, if you want to use that term. That'll be at noon on Tuesday in Andrews, just a little bit west of Odessa. This is the fourth deepest run in head coach Derek Vierling's brilliant career, one that is well beyond 600 wins. And, of course, if you don't know, Derek announced his retirement at the beginning of the season, so this is it for him, and his team does not want to let him go just yet. But anyway, fourth deepest run in the history of Vierling running this program. They made the state finals in 2018, made the state finals in 2005, and then made the regional finals back in 2004. So good luck to the Bearcats soccer team on Tuesday out in Andrews. Now, how they got here. Last Tuesday in the area round, they blistered Joshua 6-0. Hat tricks from Trent Newton and Calvin Gruber led the way. Then in the regional semifinals this past Friday in Midland, they edged El Paso Bel Air 2-1 in overtime. That game was tied at 1-1 after regulation. Trapper Davis with both of the goals. El Paso Americas is 21-2. The Trailblazers beat Colleyville Heritage on penalty kicks in their regional semifinal last Friday, just like how Aledo survived Denton in the opening round a couple weeks ago. That game was scoreless after regulation as well as overtime. Now, if Aledo does win on Tuesday, it would be on to the state semifinals later this week. The dates are scheduled between Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. So we'll just see what happens. But they would face the Region 2 champion. That would be either Brian Adams out of Dallas or Prosper Walnut Grove. Those two meet at 7:30 Tuesday night at Homer B. Johnson Stadium. That is over in Garland. So good luck to the Bearcats. Tuesday at noon in Andrews. Okay, pleased to be joined now from the Bearcats baseball team, senior third baseman Dylan Duran and senior catcher Connor Whitmire. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Good to see you all again.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Okay, so just overall thoughts on how this season has begun, 21 games into it. I would think no complaints. I mean, I guess we'll always kind of dwell on the 2 losses because of games that, you want to win them all. But just overall thoughts as to how you feel like this season has gone on. I'll start with you on this, Dylan.
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, we're coming out. Pitchers are throwing a lot of strikes. Fielders, we're all making plays. We're hitting 1 through 9, just finding a way to get on base, and it just all comes together and allows us to win.
What about for you, Connor?
I think the big thing is this year is we have a lineup 1 through 9 that hit, and there's about 3 or 4 of us that don't play, and they also hit, and we're just – and pitching's there, and we're just firing on everything right now.
All right. I asked Coach Barry about this, making sure there was no complacency from last year. I asked him this in our first segment. So for you guys as a team, it's one thing for coaches to talk about it, but for players amongst yourselves addressing this and making sure because of what happened last year, winning the state championship. And, of course, this is the offseason is where the mentality can be formed. So what was kind of the discussions here amongst yourselves to make sure that you guys would come out ready to go and put last year behind you? I'll start with you on this, Connor.
Last year is last year, and, I mean, it was special, but I think now it's our legacy now, and we obviously want to go back-to-back, and it's on us if we want to.
And then what about for you, Dylan?
Obviously, like you said, we want to create our own legacy here for the 2026 class. Great run last year, but we have a great team this year. I want to say possibly even better than last year, so I think we have a great chance to go back-to-back.
Okay, so in these 3 tournaments, you guys beat several Class 6A teams, 2 of those really good programs, state perennial powers between Flower Mound and Keller. And so I don't know if it needed to be a validation for who you guys were, but when you do beat as many 6A teams as you did, including those 2 types of programs, what does that tell you? And I'll start with you on this, Dylan.
I think we came out, we did our job, and I think we just set the tone, honestly. We showed everyone in the state that we can play to the highest potential, and we did that.
Okay, and how did you see that, Connor?
It just tells you we can compete at any level, and no matter what classification you are, I mean, we are going to come out with a fight and give you our best.
Okay, I'm going to ask you guys about your individual offensive performance here in just a few moments, but I want to ask you all about just the lineup itself. You kind of touched on this a few moments ago, but you heard me go over these numbers here that you guys are. I think the 2 numbers that stand out to me is the team on-base percentage. That's nearly 1 out of every 2 times you're at the plate, you're on base, and then more walks than strikeouts. Did those numbers mean more than maybe the hits, the RBIs, the runs scored, or anything like that? Because those things kind of create that. I'll start with you on this, Connor.
I think it is. We have an approach, and every time we go up to a plate, we plan to initialize that approach and get on base, just get them over and get them in.
And Dylan, for you, you heard Coach talk about the idea of every inning is to tax the opposing pitcher, 25 pitches at the very least if you can, or 20 to 25 in that range. And so what has that meant in that approach in terms of just you guys being successful, drawing walks, keeping innings alive, that sort of thing?
I mean, yeah, we go up to the plate. We look for our pitch. Like he said, he likes us to swing at the first pitch. I mean, if not, we try to draw walks. Find a way to get on base. Like he said, get them on, get them over, get them in. And that's how you win ball games.
Okay. So for you individually, I think you're hitting around 271, but 11 RBIs, really solid. Both those numbers really good. Again, that walks to strikeouts number for you, twice as many walks as strikeouts, 10-5. Just talk about your approach this year and what you've been seeing at the plate so far.
I mean, yeah, I'm hitting 5-6 holes, so I see a lot of off speed. So obviously when I see that fastball in the zone, I got to attack. And when I do see it, I try to drive it somewhere in the outfield, get the runners over and, half the time they get caught, but I mean, it's part of baseball. They'll drop eventually.
It's a game of failure. As we want to remind everyone too, this is more of a game of failure. But anyway, okay, for you, Connor, though, tell us about your spot in the lineup. You're hitting 344. You have a home run, 10 RBIs. Where are you batting? And just talk about your approach.
I'm batting at the 9 this year, and my approach up there is to obviously do what the team needs me. But when you're sitting there 7, 8, 9, pitchers like to attack those low hitters. So I'm sitting fastball, dead red fastball, and if he brings it, then it's going out.
Okay. All right. So we talked about this, about working pitching staffs and trying to be as efficient as they are. I want to ask you, just from your perspective, and I'll start with you on this, Connor. When you're, when you're looking at this and how your pitching staff can keep games moving quickly as they can, what does that do for a defense? I'll start with you. I know you're behind the plate, but at the same time, you have a role to play as well.
Well, I get to call the pitches this year when I am catching, and I think that's just the coaches have trust in me to call a game, and what the pitchers do really. I mean, we have a good defense, but with our pitchers and their strikeout numbers and how they can really bring it, just it makes us more relaxed than we have to be.
Okay, and then Dylan, how do you see that in terms of just your pitchers, your pace of play, the pitch, that sort of thing?
I mean, yeah, the pitchers trust everybody in the field, so it allows them to take their time up on the mound, take a deep breath every now and then, and just throw strikes and let us make the plays.
Okay, so you're in a reaction position at third. I mean, it's kind of like it's right there, and you have to make a quick decision. So what's been the key for you being comfortable, and what's the difference from playing this position last year to what you're doing now?
I mean, not a big difference. First to third, I've always played third, so moving over to first last year was a difference. But moving back, it's kind of like I'm at my home over there, and it's like you said, a big reaction spot. So I mean, I think I'm very good over there at the corner, so I make great plays, and I'll just leave it at that.
All right, and then Connor, for you kind of talked about just a few moments ago the fact that the coaches are allowing you to call the pitches. That's a big honor for you, as you mentioned, the trust that they have in you. But you've heard the term sitting in a rocking chair with your pitchers, and so creating that relationship. Just talk about what that's been like working with those guys in terms of just because you're kind of like a second pitching coach out there too in some respects. So you can see when either one guy's shoulder is flying open, or if he's really cooking, or if Chad goes out there or Coach Evans goes out there and they want to maybe have a discussion about this. I mean, you can offer some serious feedback on that.
Well, I mean, either time I have to go out there, it's either them, acting. They don't have to throw it as hard as they want to. So I'll go out there and I'll talk to them and just be like, you don't have to throw it that hard. I mean, these guys, they don't want to hit, and especially the way you're throwing. You know what you have, and your stuff is special. Just relax and throw strikes.
Do you believe in the idea that sometimes the batters will tell you more about what kind of stuff a pitcher has than anything else? Or it could be the movement, but the way the batters react to that. How do you see that?
I'd say the batters can tell you almost more about than a pitcher can tell you. I mean, the spin, they see the spin, they see if it's rising, dropping, and I think it's the batter. Okay,
when you're watching that from third base, Dylan, what's kind of your reaction? Because he's looking at it from behind, but you're looking at it as you're peering into the plate.
Yeah, of course. I look at the batter. Obviously, I can tell when he's early or I can tell if he's late, so that kind of gives me my position over there at third. And sometimes I can see what Connor calls behind the plate, which allows me to set up in that certain position. And, if they roll over right to me, or if they're a little later and they put it in the 6-hole, I'm there to make the play.
Okay, so let me ask you guys about your defense, because Coach was talking about how effective this defense has been. Something you guys have really worked on. But imagine a lot of you guys have played together through the years too, so you know each other. But what has that meant in terms of just making the routine plays and letting the spectacular plays take care of themselves? How do you see that?
I mean, yeah, routine plays win ball games. I mean, spectacular plays are cool and all, but, I mean, it's just they come out of nowhere. So make the routine plays, spectacular plays will come.
All right. Moving forward, you all are going to be heavy favorites to repeat as District 5-5A champions. And, of course, you're tied with Granbury. Of course, you played them last year when you all were tied, too, and you swept that series rather easily. But you still will be prohibitive favorites to win this district. So what does this team need to do in order to keep itself grounded, not to overlook anybody here, just to make sure that everything is just kind of, staying status quo here, and that you guys keep your eye on the prize, that you guys want to get down to Round Rock? But, again, we're not out of March yet, so there's a long way to go. I'll start with you on this, Connor.
Well, I mean, it's one game at a time. As much as we want to look forward, that's in the future, and what we want to do is now, and it's one game at a time, and just don't look forward.
All right, and then what about for you, Dylan?
I mean, yeah, like you said, we want to stick to the present. Obviously, come to practice every single day, go 100%, be able to come out the next day and just play our game. We practice every day, so there's no reason to try harder in game when we do it at practice.
And I'm going to remind you of this single stat here, because every team sport here at Aledo High School has won the district championship. So it's on you and softball to kind of finish that off. So not that I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but you know that now. So you can share that with the rest of your team. To my immediate left is senior third baseman Dylan Duran, and then to my far left is senior catcher Connor Whitmire. Let's hear it for these two young men. And we want to remind you that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Nye Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for over 30 years. For the engineering duo of Thomas Winsler and Parker Burrows and the Hank FM staff, thanks for being with us here at Parker County Brewing Company. We will talk to you next week, and we will continue to talk Aledo boys soccer and their playoff run. Hopefully by this time next week, we will be talking about them going on to the state championship match, which would be either April 9th, 10th, or 11th. Fingers crossed that they get it done Tuesday in Andrews against El Paso Americas. And then it will be softball's turn. We will be joined by head coach Heather Myers. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Happy Easter this coming Sunday. So long for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. With the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. It's the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1, Hank FM, and NTXVarsitySports.com.